Hi, my name is Yinka and welcome to Nillion. You see, I often wonder what it's like to track all of your expenses without having to expose all of your financial data. Well, that is exactly what we're building today. This is the first part of a two-part series where we're building a privacy-preserving expense tracker where all of your data stays encrypted and under your control. We'll also integrate Nil AI so you can chat with your expenses and get even deeper insight. In the first part of this tutorial, we'll cover how to create a collection of user data. We'll enable the user to write and read their expenses, and we'll give the user absolute control over their data via own collections. All of this will be done in a Node.js Express server and a Next.js frontend. In the final part of this series, we will integrate private LLM or Nil AI. This is going to bring in conversational insights into your expenses. So what are the prerequisites before we get started? You're going to need Node.js 22 and above and a Nillion API key. All right, let's get into it. So I have a blank empty cursor window in front of me. Before we get started into building out our backend API, we need to get our API key. Now to get our API key, we need to head over to this URL. This is NilPay. The NilPay subscription platform enables us to subscribe to different services. So NilDB and or Nil AI. Before we move any further, we need to be sure that we have a fully functional Nillion wallet. If you don't have one already, please head over to this part of the documentation. All of the links will be made available in the description. You can set up a Kepler wallet or a Leap wallet. Follow this guide and it shows you how to set up a fully functional Nillion wallet. Now, once you have your Nillion wallet, we're going to have to head over to the testnet file set to fund our wallet with some testnet token. This is very important because everything we're building is being done on the testnet. And the NilPay subscription platform requires payments, which is paid in Nil. So go on ahead and copy your Nillion wallet, paste that in here. Please note that you can only request for file set tokens once every 24 hours. We've created our wallet and gotten some testnet token into our wallet. The next thing we need to do from here on out is to generate an API key. We're going to head back to NilPay, click on Need an API Key, and go over I understand. So we've generated our API key. We're going to copy both the public and the private API keys. And now we're going to paste the public key here. Once we do that, it's going to check for an existing subscription. Now, it is worth noting that if you do not have an active subscription, you cannot make use of NilDB or Nil AI services. So ensure that you go through this step and you create a wallet, fund your wallet with test tokens, and also subscribe to the monthly subscription. We're working with NilDB for the first part of this tutorial, and so we will go on ahead and subscribe to NilDB. All right, great. Our API key is now subscribed to NilDB. We can go on ahead and build out our backend. Now that we've gotten our API keys and subscribed to NilDB, we can head back to Cursor and begin building out our backend. The first thing we're going to do here is to set up our package.json and a few scripts. For ES module support, we're going to add type module and save that. So our package.json is looking really good. I'll create our env file and our server.js file. And so the next thing we need to do will be to install all of our Nillion packages. We're making use of Secret Vault, Nox, and then .env. Now we've successfully installed our Nillion dependencies. The next thing we need to do will be to install Express and Course. All right, great. All of our dependencies have been installed and we're good to go. We're going to head over to our env file and paste this. So ensure to comment out Nil chain URL, Nil auth URL, and your NilDB nodes, and populate your private key from NilPay here. So once all of that is done, we could go on ahead and build out our backend server. So let's dive into that. So what we're building is a server where users can input the price, category, or description of an expense or expenses they've made, while retaining privacy and also retaining absolute control of what the product, service, or builder does with said data. This is done by making use of Nillion's blindfold libraries, and the users can grant and revoke permissions of their data at any point in time. All right, we're going to import our libraries, load our environmental variable. We'll then import our Nillion dependencies and create an instance of our Express, our environmental variable configurations. We're going to write a few helper functions to load expense ID and to save expense ID as well. Now, this is our initialize Nillion function. There are a couple things happening here. Let's go over it. We start off by creating key pairs for builders and users, and then we create a payer and a Nil auth client. Now, once that is done, we create our builder client, which is the product, which is this expense tracker, and we refresh the token using existing subscription. Now, once that is good, we are going to then register the builder. Now, once that is done, we are going to then register our expense tracker. Now, once that is done, we're going to create a user client and then create a collection if it doesn't exist already. Now, this part is pretty important because every collection is unique to the kind of application you're building. We have two types of collections. We have the standard collections and we have the own collections. Now, because we're ensuring that our users retain access control to all of their data, we're making use of the type
own collection. Again, this is important for you to specify if you want an own collection or a standard collection. And then everything else is pretty straightforward. We have the name of the collection and the properties of the collection. Because we're building an expense tracker, we need a few parameters. We need to have an amount, which is the cost of the item, a category, a description, and then a date of when the item was purchased or when the expense was made. So we're going to populate all of that inside of the property object. Once that is looking good, we're going to go on ahead and try to create a collection and then log the responses we get from that. We're then going to write our create delegation token and a few validation functions to ensure that every single data the user inputs is valid. So positive numbers, categories, and descriptions must be populated. Once that is done, we will proceed to building out our API routes. This will enable the users to make a post request and write data onto the expense tracker, and then a get request to read all of that data. So we have our read and write endpoints. The next thing we want to do is to write an endpoint that enables the user to grant permissions to the builder. So right here, we can see that we are granting the builder permissions to read data, write set data, and execute the data. All of this is true, but we don't want the builder to have all of this power by default. So we're going to change some of this to false. So what this means is the builder, the expense tracker, has only received permission from the user to read set data, right? And nothing more. And the expense tracker cannot make any modifications to the data, and the expense tracker cannot run any execution on set data, which is really cool and goes back to the idea of sovereignty, that the user has permissions to do anything they want with their data. And also, again, the user can revoke any of these permissions at any point in time, which is where this endpoint comes in. We're going to have a few error handling middleware and 404 handling. And finally, our start server function. This is going to initialize Nillion first. So run the first function that initializes Nillion and then spins up our server, and we can begin to run tests and make requests to the API. All right, so we are going to go on ahead and start our server to be sure that everything we've put together works and test the server health real quick. Okay, our server started successfully. Nillion initialization. Basically, we have everything looks good so far. We're going to test the server health. All right, our expense API server is running. Cool. Now that we have this fully functional, we're going to head over to our front end and we're going to attempt to create a new expense. So this is what our front end looks like. This is the user interface we will be working with to interact with the expense tracker. So right here, we are just going to populate that for food, lunch, and at expense. Now, as you can see, this is the total spent, average expense. And if we go further down, we can see that we're working with a monthly budget or monthly income of $20,000. And just a bit more insight from here on out. Now, so far, we've only spent $100 on food, and we can see that our expense tracker is helping us keep track. And obviously, we can go on and just populate that even more. As we can see, our expense tracker is fully functional. We have complete insights to where our money goes, and we're able to track all of that in a privacy preserving manner. Again, all of the links will be made available in the description below. The link to the Next.js app will be made available. The link to our Express server will be made available in the description as well.
All right, thank you so much for watching. Let's go over a quick recap. In the first part of this series, we learned how to create a collection for user data. We also covered how to write and read data from Nillion's private storage. All of this was done inside a Node Express server. If you enjoyed this, make sure to follow us on Twitter at @BuildOnNillion and join our Discord community if you have any questions or need any help. I'll see you in part 2. Thanks again and happy building.